The scenery graduated from town into farmland. Brilliant rows of bright and shiny apple trees. Trixie felt her stomach gurgle slightly, remembering the last time that she had been here, and just how hungry she had been. They looked for Applejack, who had probably been the one who had visited Trixie as she recovered the most. She had brought her so many apple-based products that Trixie figured the vast majority of her weight gain was from apple crisp and apple pie. It was only a short matter of time until they found Applejack, tending to a sickly-looking apple tree. She called out in greeting to the two. "Hello, Applejack. What's wrong with the tree?" Twilight responded as the two approached. Trixie looked at the tree. It certainly didn't look very good. There were some sort of fungus or mold growing on the leaves, which were starting to wilt and turn brown. "I don't really know, Twilight. It's been getting worse all week, and I'm afraid that it might going to spread to the others." Applejack sounded worried, and Twilight picked up a branch that had fallen from the crippled tree, examining the leaves. Trixie rubbed her hoof in the dirt. She knew next to nothing about farming or plants, but still felt the desire to try and help. She really did owe Applejack an awful lot. However, Twilight's eyes suddenly sparkled with recognition. "I think I've seen this in one of my books." She looked at Applejack and Trixie. "I might be able to help you. I just have to go and check something. Why don't you two stay here? There's no point for both of us to go back, Trixie." "What?" Trixie replied. "This wasn't part of the plan. Twilight was supposed to be here with her as she did this." "Oh, it'll be okay, Trixie," Twilight said, already getting ready to go. "I'll be only a few minutes and it's Applejack. It'll be okay." With that, Twilight went off, leaving the two alone. Trixie looked at the Earth Pony and Applejack looked back at the unicorn. So... This wasn't going to do. Trixie took a deep breath and continued. "Thank you for helping me, Applejack," she said, lowering her head slightly. "I am sorry for trying to steal from you, and hog-tying you too."
It ain't nothing, Trixie," Applejack said, shaking her head. "You can hardly be blamed for doing that when you are so hungry. I would have given you some for free if you had asked."
Trixie blushed slightly and looked hopefully up to Applejack.
"Besides, I can hardly stay mad at someone who is making Twilight so happy."
Trixie blinked and that blush suddenly went from slight pink to blazing red.
"So if you do anything to hurt her, I'll be the first one to run you out of Ponyville,"
the orange pony continued with a warning. You... no?" Trixie squeaked out, her hooves embarrassingly kicked at the dirt underneath her.
"How could I not? I saw the way you were been looking at Trixie Sugarcube, and you've been the subject of all of Twilight's conversations last week. It don't take an expert to figure you two out."
"So, you are okay with it?" Trixie asked cautiously, looking around for the fire and brimstone to start at any moment.
"As I said, as long as you're making my friend happy, I'm perfectly fine."
Thank you. That means a lot to me," Trixie said quietly, the embarrassment fading and a smile spreading again. She really was a comfortable pony to be around. The conversation turned to the tree, Trixie making guesses at what could be wrong and Applejack generally rejecting them. In a lull in the conversation, Trixie decided to take a chance. She had to try to find out and, looking up at the tree, asking the question that had been nagging at the back of her mind. Why do you think she fell for me?" Applejack blinked at the question and then tilted her head, a thoughtful look on her face.
"I don't really know." She saw Trixie's expression and continued. "But what I do know is that when I found you, Twilight was the one who insisted in taking care of you. And she was the one who cleaned and fed you when you were still sleeping. I think she must have been having these feelings before now."
"Really?"
"As I said, I don't really know. I'm just guessing. But I don't think that's your problem, Trixie. I think you're afraid of being lost."
"Lost?" Trixie repeated, confused.
"From what Twilight has told me, things are a bit confusing to be right now. I can't imagine what it must be like to question yourself like this. I think you're afraid of losing Twilight because that's the one thing you have right now that's certain,"
Applejack explained, and Trixie felt a slight chill down her spine. What would you do if you were me?"
"It's all a matter of figuring out who you want to be. Take me. I'm an apple farmer, and I'm happy at that. It's like finding your cutie mark all over again, ain't I? I wouldn't worry. You'll find it. Anybody that could have been through that much and survived is stronger than even they know."
Trixie smiled sheepishly at the comment and then nodded. She was about to say something when Applejack pointed behind her and Trixie turned to look, only to see Twilight dashing back towards them, carrying a book with her magic. I figured it out! It wasn't Supernaturals!" She called out, stopping in front of them, panting softly. She laid the book down on the ground. "Just mix these together and apply it to the trunk. You can return the book when you're done with it, of course." She smiled excitedly. "So, is everything okay here?"
I think so. I certainly don't have any problems with your taste, Twilight.
Trixie blushed slightly and rubbed her head with her hoof.
Applejack is nice. Thanks again for helping me,
Trixie said.
My pleasure, Trixie. I'm sure everything will work out alright.
Trixie smiled at Applejack, and the two unicorns started walking away. What did you two talk about? Twilight asked with interest.
Oh, well, just girl stuff,
Trixie replied with a smile. The rest of the schedule went about as well as Twilight had planned. Pinkie Pie was just happy to have an excuse to throw a party.
Pinkie Pie, this is Trixie. Trixie, Pinkie Pie. Ooh, does this mean we can have a party? I guess. Yay, you are best, Trixie.
Also, Twilight had extorted a promise that Pinkie would hold it anywhere but the library. Fluttershy was just as her name suggested. The conversation had very few words, but she seemed happy enough. Rarity was a little tougher, still decidedly peeved over the fact that Trixie had turned her hair that horrible shade of green.
It took me about 4 hours to fix,
she had complained, and it had taken the promise that Trixie would buy a dress when she came around and made some money to finally placate her. All throughout the day, Trixie was distracted. It wasn't that Twilight's friends weren't nice. She was actually quite thrilled at the idea of having them as friends for her own. She had rarely stayed in one place and one time during the days after Midnight's death, never really spending enough time to bond with any pony. But she kept going back to her conversation with Applejack earlier in the day. Trixie had to admit to herself it was the truth. So, what could she do about it? One thing she knew was certain was that she wanted to be with Twilight, but her life had to be more than that. What did she want to be? Well, that answer was obvious, wasn't it? Twilight herself had told her as such at that night, and the happenings of the day confirmed it. Trixie knew exactly what she wanted to be. She only had to have the bravery to go ahead with it. As the two headed towards the library, Trixie stopped in her tracks. Twilight realized that she was no longer walking beside her and turned.
Trixie, are you okay? I know it's been a long day, and with Pinkie Pie planning the party for tonight, I thought you might have need to rest a bit, Twilight said, concern in her voice.
Trixie shook her head and smiled.
No, I am okay. There's something I need to go and do before the party. I'll meet you there, okay? Are you sure? There is only one thing I'm more positive on, and she is standing right in front of me. But I need to go and spread my metaphorical wings and be on my own for a bit, alright?
Twilight tapped her hoof, clearly uncertain, but then nodded softly. Trixie bent forward and gently kissed her on the lips.
It'll be okay, you'll see.
With that, she was gone. To say that Twilight was distracted for the rest of the day was an understatement. When you spend over a week taking care for someone, it's only natural to worry about them when they leave. That only gets worse when you have personal feelings for them. All that equaled to the fact that Twilight had worn a groove in the library's floor with her pacing. Even with Spike trying to comfort her, she was still nervous, especially as the sun dipped into the horizon and the time of the party came about with no word from Trixie. Her nerves got even worse as they made their way to the party, and there was still no sign from Trixie. Pinkie Pie had opted for a party in the outdoors around the central building. Twilight wondered if it was Pinkie's doing or just the nature of irony that meant Trixie was going to make her second impression in the same place that she had made her first. A crowd had already gathered, including all of her friends, the party already in full swing. Pinkie Pie bounded up to her.
Twilight, I've got everyone coming. We got streamers and balloons and everything's ready.
She looked around curiously, even peeking under Twilight's legs as if the blue unicorn would be hiding underneath there.
Where's she? We can't have a party without our guest of honor.
I don't know. She said she had something she needed to do. I haven't seen her since this afternoon, Twilight said, the rest of them walking up to her.
I'm sure it'll be okay, Twilight,
Applejack said comfortingly.
I don't know. She was acting a little strange earlier. I'm worried.
Before Twilight could continue, the center of the square suddenly exploded in fireworks, causing surprised ponies to turn their attention in the direction. They were met with a magical enchanted voice echoing out over them.
Come one, come all, come and witness the amazing magic of the great and powerful Trixie.
Oh no, Twilight whispered, a chill running down her spine, and quickly began pushing her way to the front, followed by her friends. She got to the edge just in time to see, in a flash of smoke and sparkles, Trixie appear, clad in her cloak and hat, a brilliant theatrical smile on her face.
Watch in amazement as the great and powerful Trixie performed incredible feats of pony magic.
More sparks and fireworks, and Twilight's head lowered slightly, her body trembling gently. She didn't know what to say. She had reverted back so quickly.
Hey, she's doing it again!
Rainbow Dash protested, pointing over to the cloak-clad unicorn.
Twilight, I'm sorry,
Applejack apologized before glaring fiercely at Trixie. The magician pony's front hooves were waving, and a bouquet of flowers appeared before her. With a flourish, the great and powerful Trixie swept them up, then brought them around and with a final gesture offered them to Twilight. She raised her head slightly, looking up in Trixie's eyes, and gently took the flowers. The chill she had felt was gone, as she realized that everything was going to be okay. Now let the great and powerful Trixie tell you all the tale of the most beautiful and magical unicorn in all of Equestria. Together with her brave friends, she faced dangers and death in her quest to bring dawn to the endless night and freed the Princess of the Moon from the bonds of hatred that trapped her. Trixie proclaimed, removing the hat from her head, her horn glowing brilliantly. As every pony watched, enthralled, a panorama painted itself onto the fabric of reality. One side depicted 6 brave ponies, their leader, a beautiful purple unicorn at the head. On the other, the dangers that they faced. As Trixie began to weave the story, the panorama shifted in design in time with her, showing how much threat was faced and defeated with courage and friendship, punctuated by additional effects from the storyteller. Trixie looked out at the sea of those in her audience, her eyes coming to rest at the 6 who had made their way to the front. Their eyes were wide as they beheld the spectacles of their own story and the praise Trixie bestowed on them. Twilight was holding her flowers that Trixie had created, and no one but Trixie saw the love in her face. This was what she wanted, what she was. Just because she's gotten it wrong the first time didn't mean that she wasn't allowed to try again. Her dream wouldn't die unless she let it die. She wanted to be a storyteller, a magician, like her mother, to weave dreams and reality, to create happiness for people. So just as the audience had lost themselves in watching, the great and powerful Trixie lost herself in the weaving of the performance, creating a seemingly endless moment in time. The crescent moon was high in the sky when the party finally broke up. Soon there were only 2 ponies left, enjoying the night sky and each other's company. Twilight still holding the flowers, and Trixie, clad in her star-filled outfit, leaned against one another. "So what did you think of the show?" the performer asked her most important audience, who sniffed the flowers with an embarrassed but very happy expression. "I loved it, but between the flowers and your praise, I think half of Equestria knows about us now," Twilight said with a soft laugh. "Well, I decided that it was now the time for grand and romantic," Trixie admitted, leaning in and kissing her lovely audience member. The kiss lingered for a moment before Twilight pulled gently away to admit something. "When you first started, I thought you had gone back to before. I was worried. I shouldn't have doubted you." "Well, I can see why, so I'm not angry. You told me that night that I should find out what the great and powerful Trixie should be, and today Applejack said much the same thing," Trixie said, wistfully looking up at the sky. "I knew what I wanted to be, so I was just too afraid to go for it. And now, I'm not afraid anymore. I know this is right," Trixie murmured, nuzzling Twilight's neck lovingly. "So, I'm also not going to be afraid to ask this question." "What question?" Twilight asked in between the soft, happy noises coming from her snout at the nuzzling. "Twilight, that night, why did you kiss me?" Trixie said slowly with a little trepidation. Twilight blinked and then smiled, gently pulling away from Trixie to look her eye to eye. "There aren't many unicorns whose special talent is magic, you know." She started and Trixie nodded, listening. "When I first saw you, I thought you were amazing. Here was another pony whose special talent was magic. She seemed to be so brilliant at it, and she was so beautiful, too." Trixie blushed and then let out a soft laugh. "I'm sure embarrassing your friends and then the deal with the Ursa Minor didn't exactly help your image with me, so..." "Well, no, but it was still there, deep inside. When Applejack found you, I knew that I wanted to help you," Twilight said, and leaned her head against Trixie's, her horns touching gently, both of them starting to gently glow from the touch. "When you woke up, I was surprised and honored that you laid your heart out to me as you did. I realized during that time that you had the same feelings towards me. It was etched on your face, and those emotions I felt the first time I saw you came rushing back. Maybe it was a bit rash, but I felt like it was the right thing to do at the time." "And now?" Trixie asked, parroting Twilight. "It definitively was the right thing to do," Twilight finished and smiled. Trixie blinked away the tears that had formed in her eyes, and the two looked upwards to the crescent moon, warmly shining down on the 2 lovers. "I think you should tell her." Trixie broke the silence once again. "Who?" "Your mentor, Princess Celestia. It wouldn't be right to keep it from her." "Really? Are you sure?" Trixie nodded at Twilight. "All right, in the morning. But for now the evening should be ours, don't you think?" The 2 ponies stood and started walking for home. When the morning came, they would have to face the bustle of real life. But for now, their world consisted only of each other.